Okay, for this first question, it's asking you to use the data to draw a vertical line graph. Well, the first thing you notice is you've got loads and loads of data, so you have to start by collating it. All right, make sure by the end of it, it all adds up to 30. Easiest way to do it without making mistakes would just be cross them off one by one as you go along, okay? But I've got 8 cabbage, 13 peas, 3 broccoli, 6 sprouts. Add them together and they add up to 30, okay? That's going to get you 3 of the 6 marks. Okay, now the written solutions which I've got here, they're not actually mine. I've drawn a bar chart, but from my understanding, a bar chart is not going to get you the full marks because it actually says a vertical line. Now, the bar chart drawn is very good. The widths are perfect. There's an equal width between each bar. It's clearly labelled which one is which. Cabbage, peas, broccoli, sprouts. Move it up a bit. It's got a title. It's labelled frequency up the side. Or you could write amount of vegetables or amount of people. We got the vegetable on the bottom. So the only difference is going to be for a vertical line is, unfortunately, everything else can be the same, but these should be drawn as literally a single line. So the easiest way to have done it would have been to just draw one line. Okay. So again, here we've just drawn one line, and then one line, rather than a bar. Okay. Okay, part B. Why would Alice collect the data on a frequency table using an Italian method? Well, the obvious thing is just to make it easier to read, okay? Organise the data easily. Anything along those lines, guys, you get 1 mark. Next question. Alice wanted to compare the popularity of different vegetables. What's the modal? I'm hoping you know modal means the same as mode, which means the same as most. So which one was the most common? Well, peas. That was the one which had the most. And the next one, Alice chose one person at random from the people that she had surveyed. What is the probability that the person chosen said broccoli? Okay, so if it's probability, we know to write it as a fraction, and it was out of 30 people. And then how many people chose broccoli? Well, 3 out of 30. Okay, where did I get that from? Well, right at the beginning here. Broccoli, 3. So 3 out of 30. You can simplify to 1 over 10, but 3 over 30 is fine as well, guys. Okay, so for this question here, we know that the invitation is a rectangle and it's 6 by 8. So that just means if you had a rectangle like so, it would be 6 and 8. Okay. She makes the invitations from coloured card measuring 18 by 16. Which is all of this here. So what we need to do is find out the maximum. So obviously if you had this sheet of card here and it measured this much, you want to fit as many of these 6 by 8s on there. So first I'm going to find out how many across, how many down it is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we know it's 18 this way, which means it has to be 16 that way. So now what we want to do is fit as many on there as possible. Well, 6 is the one length, 8 is the other length. So you need to look at the numbers 18 and 16. And what hopefully you notice is 6 would go into 18 perfectly and 8 would go into 16 perfectly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'd stop there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then because we know it's got to be 8 down, 6 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 down. We know we can go to here. Hopefully you can now start to see my rectangle. So this is my first rectangle. And we can just double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can see you can perfectly fit another one there. So by the end of it, if I just draw my lines on there, the best way you could fit it would be across here. You don't have to use this, but it's there to help you. Therefore, what is the maximum amount you could have? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so my Nice and easy. Okay, so she wants to invite 120 people. What is the least number of pieces of card she needs? So you can use your answer from the last one. So what they've done here is 120 divided by 6, because you know there's 6 invitations per card, and that would mean you need 20 pieces of card. Or you could just write it slightly differently. 1 piece equals 6 people. And then what we want to do is get the 6 people up to 120. So maybe if you doubled it times by 2, that'd be 2 pieces. And then hopefully then you'd recognize get 1 to 12 up to 120, you could just times by 10. Okay, 120 people, which would be, which would be 20 pieces, as said above. So it's just a slightly way of writing it out there, okay? Okay, guys. For this one, quite a lot going on. Okay, ignore that top bit. That just tells us we get these bonus 2 marks down here. That's all right. Ashley usually works 32 hours a week at £6.50 an hour, all right? So I know straight away what I want to do, just because it makes me think about it, is do £32 times £6.50. I want to know roughly how much she'd get a week. She pays 1/10. 1/10 is the same as dividing by 10 of her earnings in tax and national insurance. She gives £50 of her weekly earnings to her family. She gives £60 a week on socialising and other things, and then the rest she saves. Ashley wants to book a week's holiday in Portugal, costing £419. How many weeks will it take her to save? Right then, at the moment, what we know is whatever's left is what she saves. So we can't find out how long it's going to take her to save all this money unless we know how much she saves per week. So first thing I'm going to do, nice and simple, is find out what she earns. So you're going to get 1 mark if you've done 32 times £6.50. So we know she gets £208 a week, which is nice. I'm then just going to go back and reread all of this. She pays 1/10 of her earnings. I said 1/10 is the same as dividing by 10. So I've written 1/10 times 208, but it's just exactly the same as dividing by 10. So we know £20.80 she loses. Okay. Let's go back at the top. She gives £50 of her earnings to her family. She gives 60 to socialising. Okay. So I know she loses this £20.80 because we just found that out. That's tax and insurance. We know she loses the 50 and the 60, as I said above. So I'm going to add all these together to find out how much she loses per week. There's slightly different ways of doing it. You didn't have to add that, but I have. I've added that up. £130.80 per week is what she loses. So remember, 208 is what she earned. 130 now, 0.80 or 80 pence is what she loses. So to find out what's left, because that's obviously what she saves, I take it away. Okay, so £77.20 a week she is saving. All right, so if you've got all the way up to there, you've got yourself 3 out of 6 marks. Sorry, 4 out of 6 marks. So £77.20 is what she earns per week. So to find out how many weeks it's going to take her, remember the holiday is £419. So we need to find out how many 77s are going to get me all the way to 419. Quickest way with a calculator is to divide the 2. Okay, so 419 divided by 77.2 is other ways you could have done it, but that gives you a decimal. Now that decimal means there's 5 and a bit more weeks. So how many full weeks would it take her to save for the holiday? If your final 2 marks is, it will take her 6 weeks. Okay. Then obviously your extra bonus marks are just for these little words, pound signs, underlining your answers as you go down, making it nice and neat for the examiner to follow. Okay, a local fitness centre wishes to build an outdoor 5-side football pitch, 25 metres by 45 metres. Okay, it's quite big. The cost of building this is going to be £85 per square metre. Now, the bit you may not understand here is per square metre actually means metre squared, which actually means area. That's the hardest part, okay? So, calculate the total cost of building this pitch. Well, the first thing you need to do is find the area you need to cover, okay? So that's going to be 45 times 25. So you got 1 mark if you try to multiply the 2. Your second mark for your answer of 1,125 metres squared. Okay, so that's what we need to cover. But we know that every single metre squared, so every single 1 metre squared is worth £85. So obviously if we need to cover 1,125, it's 1,125 times by the £85. And as you can see, it's pretty steep, £95,625 in total, okay? Okay, for this question, guys, there's a few different ways you can do it. The way I've done it, or the way the person who's done this, maybe slightly different to the way I would do it. So I just want you to get your head around this bit first. Cook for 40 minutes per kilogram, and then add an extra 25 minutes. Now, what I think a lot of you are going to do is know that you need it's 4.5 kilograms, but it's 40 minutes per kilogram. Now, remember you've got a calculator, but what you could do is, if it's 40 minutes per, you could do 40 times 4, okay, which is obviously 160 minutes. But then also you've got an extra half, so you need to find effectively a half of 40, which is another 20 minutes. So in total, you know it's going to take 180 minutes. Okay, that's the way maybe I think you would do it. The quickest way to do it is just multiply by 4.5, and that'll take you straight to 180. But maybe that's a little bit easier to understand. You've then got to add on an extra 25. So we know we'd add on an extra 25. It is going to take me to 205 minutes. So the way I've done it is just by here. 205 minutes. Okay, as I said, 40 times 4.5 added on. Then I've changed it to hours. So be careful if you've got a calculator, right? You know that 3 hours, 3 times 60, because times at 60, would be 180 minutes. Okay, or maybe what you did realize up here is this was 3 hours exact. So it's 3 hours and an extra 25 minutes on top. Okay, so be really, really careful. So you got 1 mark for your work-ins. 2 marks for your work-ins. Your third mark is for this bit here, getting 3 hours and 25 minutes. But the question actually said the chef wants the turkey to be ready at 1:30. What is the latest time? So you have to take off 3 hours and 25 minutes from here. So take off the 3 hours, takes you down to 10:30, take off the 25 minutes. Your final mark, 10:05 in the morning. Just one more point, guys. I can't reiterate enough. Be really careful when you're dealing with time, because time is always out of that number 60. So if you're using a calculator, don't make any silly mistakes. Okay, next question. Right, again, it looks like a better buy one. Okay, nice. Whenever it's better buy or best value, you can't compare them unless the quantity is the same. So we know we got 40 here for £2.60. This one, we got 20 tea bags and 50%. So 50% of 20 is obviously a half of 20, which is 10 tea bags. So in total here, you've got an extra 10 on top of the 20. So you've actually got 30 tea bags for £1.80. So if we have a look down here, that's just what I've done there. I've got 30 tea bags for £1.80. Well, we still can't compare them yet because the quantities aren't the same. So loads of ways you could do it. Easiest way to do it on a calculator though would be just divide the cost by the quantity. So £1.80 or 180 pence divided by 30 tea bags, because that's how much it costs us, means you are paying 6 pence for every tea bag. Okay, there are other ways you could have done it, but this way is quite nice. So now I'm going to do the same thing for this one. So it means I'll divide by 40, because 40 tea bags are £2.60. So 40 tea bags for £2.60. That's going to give me the cost of 0.065. You can't ignore that 5, guys. You've got to keep it there, even though we wouldn't physically be able to hold it in money. So as you can see, which one's slightly bigger? Well, this one, only by less than half of a penny, or half a penny. But this is still more expensive. So the best value is obviously the 30 for £1.80. Okay. Okay guys, for this one, what I'd probably do is just find out how much is in each one. So 100 pairs is 1 box, so 100, 200, 300, then half a box. So that's going to be 350. Here, 100, 200 and half a box, 250. 100, 200, 300, 400. And then 100, 200, 300. Okay, I'll do that first. Obviously no marks yet, but it's going to help me with the question. So this one says, what is the approximate range? Range is highest, take away the lowest. I hope you know that. The highest is 400, the lowest is 250. So the difference between them is obviously 150. Okay, 1 mark. Next one, total number of trainers sold from January to April. So from January to April is 1,300. So from January to April. What is the mean number of pairs of trainers sold each month? So what I know is, how do I find the mean? Well, I add them all up. They've already told you that. What am I dividing by? Well, because it's per month. How many months are there? January, February, March, April. 1,300 divided by 4 in your calculator, and hopefully that would give you the answer of 325 below. Okay guys, first one, it tells us that the scale is 1 centimetre is equivalent to 8 centimetres in real life. So when we want to write down this bit here, write down the approximate length of AB, first we've got to do is measure it. And as you can see, it's 7 centimetres. On yours, if it's printed out, it might be smaller. So it doesn't matter if you've used a different length, but 7 centimetres here. So I need to multiply 7 by 8 first, because every centimetre, as we said at the top here, is equal to 8 centimetres in real life. 7 times 8 is 56, that gets you 1 mark, but the question clearly says metres, so I divide it by 100. Okay, put that there if you need to. Divide by 100 to change it to metres. So the answer is 0.56 for your second mark. Okay, next question says, is AE parallel to BD? So you need to remember parallel lines now. As you can see, I've drawn them on there to double check. The rules on parallel lines is several. There's a Z angle here, but because it's drawn to scale, we have to actually measure it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my protractor on there. Here we are, 0 goes up, 60. So that's where I had the answer of 60 there. So if I drew a Z angle is also known as an alternate angle. Spin this around. 0 up to 60. Let's double check. I'm happy with that. It goes straight through 60. So again, if that one's 60, that's 60, therefore they have to be parallel. Similarly, if you measure in here and in here, they would be 120 because they're on a straight line, or inside add up to 180 as well. Loads of different ways you could have done it. So for the 2 marks, you first had to measure and show they were the same, but then you had to use the words either alternate, or you could have used corresponding, or you could have used co-interior. There's loads of different ways you could have done it. Okay, quite a bit going on here, guys, so I've got kind of ignored the top bit because all it does is set the scene. But it says here that this is the charges for the company. So if we try to get a head around it, straight down the bottom, this is the period. So you can either have it annually, which is for a year. You can either pay for 6 months, which is obviously half a year, or you can pay for 1 month, which is obviously 1/12 of a year, okay? Hence why these get a little bit cheaper. But what you need to notice is it says by here that it's per metre, or by there, per metre. So it means however long the boat is, this is the charge for every metre of it. So if it's 8 metres long, it's 8 times 320, okay? So it's going to be, that's a little bit tricky at first. The next thing says exclusive of VAT. If VAT was already on there, it's a inclusive. Inclusive includes, so exclusive means they haven't added this 20% on, okay? So if you read all of this as well, it's going to help us with the rest of the question. So all charges are per metre, which is what I already explained. And then combinations of the periods are allowed. For example, you could have 7 months, pay for 6, and then obviously just 1 extra month, okay? Right, first question then. Including VAT, how much would the monthly charge be? So for a 10 metre boat. So a 10 metre boat, minimum length 9, minimum length of 7. No minimum length. So because it's only for monthly, 1 monthly, we're going to do 40 times 10, okay, which is 400 because it's only monthly, hence why we're looking here. And then 20%, well, 10% I hope you know would be 10% I hope you know would be 40, so 20% is 80, so that is where my 80 and my 400 come from by here. So the answer would actually be 480, okay? Obviously, if you're struggling, just circle either one, anyone anyway, because you might get it right. Next one, for the next one, because it says excluding VAT, we don't need to add it on, but it says how much would the 6 monthly be? So we know we're looking at 6 monthly charge for an 8.2 metres. 8.2 metres, you would unfortunately be charged for 9 metres, because it says here, any part metre is charged as a full metre. So we know we need to do 9 metres times the cost of 180, okay? So 9 times 180, we're given the answer of £1,620, okay? Okay, a bit of a chunky one, guys. Lars owns a 9.3 metre boat, so we know that has to be 10 metres. He wants to keep his boat in the harbour for 11 months. Which option should he choose? You should consider all possibilities, including VAT. So we're now going to actually look at all three. So the first one is annual. The second one is going to be 6 monthly, and then we need another 5 months on top. And the other one is going to be 11 monthlies. So not a bad question, but it's going to take us a bit of time. For 6 marks, so guys, I think you should really get going with it. Right, the annual payment is a nice one. So we know it's 10 meters, so I've done 10. So let's hide some of that. 10 times 320, because it says here 320 meters. But then I got to add on the VAT. So that's 3,200. How did I get 640? Well, again, to find 20%, if you have to, guys, divide by 10 for 10. And then obviously double it, okay? Which will give you the 640. And then add it on. So option 1, 3,840. Okay, 2 marks for that. Next one, the option 2 is a monthly payments. Okay, so I've gone for just the easier one to start with. Monthly payments is going to be £40 times 10. But be careful, you've then got to times that by 11 because it's 11 months. Okay, so the 10 times the 40 times the 11 is going to give me 4,400. But then I've got to add on the 20% again. Again, how did I find 20%? I would have divided this number by 10 and then doubled it for 20, which gave me 880. Okay, so in total, £5,280. That's option 2. The third option then is going to be the one I explained, which you could do 6 months. So some of you might have forgotten this, 6 months or not noticed it, and another 5 months separate. So the 6 monthly is going to be 10. So 10 times, okay, this is a little bit confusion in terms of working. So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll do it slightly differently. 10 meters times by the 180. I'll do that first, okay? That's going to give me £1,800. I'm then going to do 10 meters times by the 40, and I got to then times it by 5 because it's for 5 months. Because remember, in total, it's for 11 months. So I'm going to times that by the 40, which is 400, and then I'm going to times that by 5. Okay. It's going to give me £2,000. Now I've done that, I'm going to add these two together. So if I add these two together, that's 3,800. But now I've got to find 20% of this. So 10%, again, I said I would divide by 10 for 10%. So it's 380 quid. For 20%, I'm going to double it. So that's going to give me 760 quid. So I now need to add on the 760 back to the 3,800. So the total for this one, hopefully it'll be the same on the sheet below, is going to be the 3,800, add the 760, it's going to give me £4,560, which is what they got there. Okay, massive cost, that one. Okay, but is it the most expensive? No, it's not. The cheapest was actually the very first one we done, 3,840. So you've got to do all that for the 5 marks, but then your 6th mark is just showing that the best option is to pay for the annual fee, which makes sense because it's 11 months. Okay, what is the greatest saving? So the greatest saving, what have I done here? Well, to find the greatest saving, you just got to take away the most expensive option, which was 5,280, and the most cheapest option. So you've actually saved £1,440, loads of money to save there, guys. Quite a nice question for 7 marks in total. Just required quite a bit of reading to begin with. Okay, got to be really careful, guys, with scale. Okay, my advice would be when you see a question which involves scale, just fill in the numbers you can in between. It'll stop you making silly errors. All right, like so. All right then. So what is a volume? So volume of the liquid after 2.5 hours. So we know we got to 2.5 hours. That's there in between 2 and 3. Line up, line across. Well, that's quite clearly between 6 and 5, so it's 5.5. Okay, 5.5. 1 mark. Next one. How long does it take to half fill the container? Give your answer in minutes. So careful because this is given in hours. How long does it take to fill half the container? Well, half of the container, if it's 6, is obviously 3. 3 across and down takes me to the 6th the 6th square across, you'll be really careful now. 6th square, if you've split up here an hour, where have I got 36 minutes from? Well, the easiest way to explain it maybe is the 6 out of 10 squares of 60 minutes. Okay, or just remember, if this is an hour by here, it's going up in sixes, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. That's where that's come from. 42, 48, 54, 60. Okay, because time is out of 60. Really, really careful. So how long did it take you? 36 minutes. If you've written 0.6 hours, you get 1 mark, or 6/10 of an hour. Next question. The container is empty at 8:36 a.m. So if it's 8:36 a.m., at what other times is the container empty between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m.? So what you need to recognize on your graph is for it to start from 0, go all the way up, and then be back to 0 again. So to take a full cycle, it takes exactly 5 hours. So if we know at 8:36 is when it is empty, every 5 hours is when it'll be empty again. So hence where the 13 come from and the 18, I've just added on 5 to the hours twice, okay? Because it's between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m, you've got to have both for your workings. Or for the mark, sorry. Okay, for this one here then, how have I come to this conclusion? Well, let's have a little look. Let's read the statements. The container fills at a constant rate. So if it fills at a constant rate when it's empty, this would, on your diagram, this would have to be a perfect straight line. So that's definitely out of the equation. The container fills at a constant rate. Again, we know that can't be true because it says then starts to slow down. It does go up steep and then starts to slow down, but that's not constant because it curves. The next one, after starting to fill, the rate at which the container fills up increases. Well, that's wrong because for it to the rate of it to increase, it's going to be a steeper line, but the line actually curves and goes flatter. We know that one's right because I've obviously put it there, but let's double check why this one isn't. It is not possible to tell whether or not the rate at which the tank fills up remains the same. Well, it is because you can see it is fairly constant, but it's just uneven. So why is it this one? The container starts to fill quickly. Yep, shoots up, then slows down. So it shoots up, then slows down, and then it goes at a constant rate. Okay, hence why I've gone for that one there. Okay, if you're ever given a formula, guys, just remember this. 9c means 9 times c. In maths, touch in means times in. So with 5f, it means 5 times f, okay? 5 lots of f. So that's going to help us now with this next part. It tells you up above what c stands for, and it tells you up above what f stands for. Complete the following statement. 10 degrees Celsius is the same as 50 degrees Fahrenheit. How have I come to that conclusion? Well, all I've done is 9 times 10, because it's telling me C is now 10. So I've done 9 times 10, and then I've added 160, okay, which has given me 250. But why have I got 50? Because I did tell you here 5 Fs. So 5 Fs is 250. So obviously you'd have to divide by 5 to find out what this single F would be. So 1 mark for the 250, second mark for 50. Next one's a little bit tricky, guys. It's asking you to make C the subject of the formula. So if you know, you would do 9 times something, add 160, gets you to this. The easiest way to do it is, well, if you would do 9 times 160, sorry, 9 times C, sorry guys, 9 times C, then add the 160. Well, the last thing you would do is add the 160. So if you were going backwards, first thing you would do is have to take away the 160 if you had this answer. So that leaves me with the 9c because we're just trying to get the c on its own. So now what would I have done? Well, if 9 times something gets me to all of this, I've got to do the opposite. You're going backwards in math, you're doing the reverse. The opposite times in by 9 is actually dividing by 9. So I'd have to divide all of this by 9. If you've written divide by 9 after, you've got to put it in brackets. Okay, guys? Okay, right guys, what we need to remember when it comes to angles in bearings, when it says not drawn to scale, you cannot use this. That's the first thing, cannot use it. Second thing is, when you've got north lines are always going to be parallel because they're always obviously facing up. So you can actually use your laws of parallel lines. And in parallel lines, if you have a C, these two inside it must add to 180 degrees. So if this one here is 42, this one here has to be 138 because they've got to add to 180. Similarly, if this one's 73, this one here has got to be whatever you add to 180 to get you to 73, which is 107. Okay, get you to 180. So those two add to 180, those two add to 180. I don't know if I need them yet, but they may well help me for the question. Let's have a little look. The above diagram shows the section of gas pipeline. The bearing of Brentor from Canterville. So we're going from Canterville. So that's, we know we need to measure all of this. Now remember, 3 things for bearings: north, clockwise direction, got to be 3 figures in the answer. So we need to find out, if we're going from here to here, we actually need all of this. There's a couple of different ways you can do it, but I know all of this must add to 360. Okay, so all I would do is 180 take away 107. All right, you could do it a slightly different way. You could just add 180 and 73, because this here would be 180 and that angle there would be 73. Whichever way you do it, 250 degrees is the correct answer. The next one, write down the bearing of Abermawr from Brentor. So we want Abermawr, so that's this one here, but from here. So we actually need all of this. Okay, so if we need all of this, we know that this here is 42. We've got to go clockwise. Easiest way to do it is just all of this adds to 360. 360 take away 42, give me 318 degrees. Okay, quite generous that for 3 marks, guys. All right, next question. As the gas pipeline continues, all right, I believe this is the last question on paper, guys. As the gas pipeline continues towards the next town, it makes a 30 degrees turn so that it follows the road as shown in the sketch. Okay, use a pair of compasses and a ruler to construct a line so that it shows the direction of the pipeline. So let's have a little look what we have done here. Little bit tricky one to finish, guys. Right, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you on a plain piece of paper. So let's assume this here is my gas pipeline, okay? And all we want to do is draw the 30 degree angle. Okay. Right, first thing I'm going to do is just extend my line, because we know this is the bottom of it. And then I'm going to imagine I am drawing, doesn't matter how far you open it, I'm just going to imagine I am drawing a equilateral triangle. So I'm going to put the sharp point on here. I'm going to draw a little arc there. Okay, all the way out to the line. So everywhere I've now drawn is obviously the same distance away. I'm then going to go to where I've crossed here and do the same thing. And by doing that, and by crossing at the top, what I've actually drawn is, this is tricky, what I've actually drawn is, if I did draw that there, you've drawn a perfect equilateral triangle. Okay, and an equilateral triangle has to have a 60 degree angle in it, right? So that's the starting point, which is which I think is very tricky. But we know this has got to be 30. So the only way we can split this to make it a 30 degree angle is by drawing an angle bisector. And to draw an angle bisector, what you do is use the sharp point. It's got to go on the corner you want to split. And then you open it as far as you want, it doesn't matter. You draw an arc on both parts of the line the angle you want to split. So I draw one arc there, one arc there. Okay, so you draw an arc there and arc there. Now, because we know we want to cut this up here, and if you've just drawn these, obviously you want to use these again. So it makes sense, if you can't remember, to put the sharp point on these new points. So that's by there. I'm going to draw a little arc by there. I'm going to go to exactly the same place and do the same thing. Oops. Try not to mess it up. Like so. And as you can see, the way they cross, what this will actually do for you is really clever, is split this angle perfectly. And what I can do is now check it to see this is a 30-degree angle. And as you can see, if I line it up, 0, I'll zoom in if you want me to, 0, 30, it's a perfect 30-degree angle. All right, so it's a bit tricky, guys, but still rather show you than not do so.